Hello, this is a technique and strategies to develop the Lotus position. Again, my name is Dr. Andrew Christitian. I'm a DC and PhD, and this is copyrighted, and the website that accompanies it is avatarbabaji.com. So who am I? I'm Dr. Andrew Christitian. I'm a healer, a chiropractor, a writer, a blogger, a known operator of avatarbabaji.com, and a father. First goals is help develop the Lotus position. Lotus. Begin the following postures. Stay seated and seated, leg raised, hamstring stretch. This will lengthen and loosen the posterior muscles of the thigh. Muscles. Something you would do is stretch the quad, which is the front muscles of the thigh. If you reverse laying posture, we'll at the end and I'll go through them all again at the end. Or you stand, stretch, or lay and stretch the quadricep muscles. Quadricep muscles are the muscles on the front of the thigh. And holding your foot behind your back, higher than the thigh. Or laying on your knees with your back bent, laying on your knees, stretching the front part of the thigh. That will help loosen the front of the thigh muscles. Start stretching the hip abductor muscles, hip muscles, and again will be diagrams at the end. Eventually you can do this laying the hip abductor postures, and there will be a diagram showing this as well too. This lengthens the outside of the hip. 4, we'll use a seated butterfly stretch for loosening and stretching the groin or the inner thigh muscles. Advanced work for Lotus. What we're doing is getting the legs into Lotus. Warm them up. So this is once you can get the legs into the Lotus. Was stretching the outer part of the thighs, and you would do the stretches as often as you can throughout the day. Then when you get the feet legs into the Lotus position, you will try to get the Lotus into the Lotus, warm them up, and then rub the outer knee and stretch the hamstring into the air, one at a time. Then just bend forward and touch the head to the floor or as far as possible forward. Your outer capsule will cavitate on one side and lengthen. This will lengthen the capsule of the knee. I think it's actually stretching the fascia and the ligaments, or I should say ligaments, the fascia that surrounds the knee joint. Is you get into Lotus and you bend forward and your head to the ground, your forehead to the ground in front of you, and that's the capsule on the one side. The one side will be easier to get in the Lotus than the other, and then the super advanced coursework, which is right here that we're about, is changing the leg positions, moving the, say you can get the left over the right and right over the left, the left over the right and right over the left. Then what you do is you change in super advanced position, you change the leg position and move the other leg over the other leg, and the opposite leg to the opposite leg position. Again, forward in the position does not help. The second degree is doing Shikara Mudra. The second leg position. Shikara again is with the tongue up and back to the back of the throat, right as far as you can. So doing Shikara Mudra in this second altered leg position, doing until you go into Samadhi, which will be our release into this position. So this is the second degree of Shikara Mudra, is when the tongue moves further back beyond the hard palate and then can rest there with ease. And what we'll do was, once entered Samadhi in this lengthened tongue position, this will open the ear canal and enable loosening of the relaxation of the alternate Lotus position. You can focus entering the Shikara Mudra stages by forcing the tongue back. Do not cut the frenulum again. To the left or to the right. The left of the pharyngeals, one side will be easier to move the tongue back to. When you feel you say it goes back to the left side easy, start practicing moving the tongue to the right and forcing it back with your tongue, using the tongue muscles. To the back of the right side. If the right was resisted, move back to the right there as far as you can until you go into the breathless state, and then get a release where Nirva Kapha Samadhi, where the consciousness is released up to the third eye or the crown. And it'll help release. The more you practice put tongue back with your tonsils, it'll go from first degree, which is just moving the tongue to the back of the palate, where you use the second part of the palate, where it becomes soft palate. That's first degree Shikari Mudra. Second degree, as we talk about here, is when the ear opens up and a release of a fluid in the back of the throat. Then third degree is even higher, but it's not needed for this. So what you do is you get into the altered position, put the tongue up in Shikari Mudra, figure out which side resisted, go to the resisted side, put tongue back as far as you can go back, and hold it until you get to Nirva Kapha Samadhi in this position. Help loosen up the legs as well. And then once you have that, then you can get into both lotus positions, which becomes important for manifesting and doing some manifesting work, which we're going to talk about in a future video. Here's the lotus position. The lotus position is a leg lock, or one hip or one leg moved up. The heel would rest up on the pubic bone, and the other leg is locked up over this, and ankle joints rest comfortably together with those moved up onto the pubic bone. So that's the easiest way to practice getting to the lotus is doing forward bends, like stretch, where you stretch the posterior side of the hamstring, side of the legs, back of the thigh, seated hamstring stretches, then forward seated hamstring stretches. Today, you can practice as often as you can. As you loosen up, then you continue to do them often. It'll loosen up the thighs, the muscles of the thigh, which will help getting into the lotus. Be held for 30 seconds to a minute. The longer you hold it, the better. But there reaches a pinnacle where it doesn't matter. The ultimate goal is using these postures into samadhi state, which will help relax the joints, relax the muscles. This sector stretch, where you're stretching the outer part of the thigh down his shard on that you can see. That's the abductor, the thigh, the hip muscles. The thing is, he's putting torque on his left knees over his right leg, and push to his right, and stretching his left hip, his outer hip. That's what he's stretching. And put the right over the left, and the other way, stretching the right outer thigh. Here, doing the hips abductor stretch. You do laying, where he's stretching actually his left leg, where you can see with his right arms outstretched, and he's stretching the left hip. We do it in a seated kind of laying position, where the front leg is bent 90 degrees, the back leg stretched out forward, and her right hip abductors. And that's a deeper stretch. That's a little better posture. It's better once you've reached this level to use this position as it stretches more involved and gets deeper into the muscle. This would hold true. You could do both positions for the opposite legs. Adductor stretch, I should say, where once the butterfly, you put the feet together and pull them into the pubic bone as close, or the groin as close as possible, and they can bend the knees down towards the floor, and that will stretch the inner groin. In the lotus, this doesn't really accurately show it because it doesn't show that she's in the lotus necessarily. Once you're in the lotus, you can bend forward and touch the forehead to the ground, and that will help open the knee capsule. And you develop lotus.